My daughter was on the kitchen floor, not moving right, and my husband was just standing there. Not moving, not reaching for her, just staring at me like he'd forgotten how his own legs worked. Derek! I dropped my bag right there in the doorway. Derek, what happened to her? He didn't answer. He just kept staring, and something about the way he was looking at me, not at Chloe, at me, made my stomach drop before I even reached her. I was supposed to be in Dallas until Sunday. The conference wrapped early, so I grabbed an earlier flight, thinking I'd surprise everybody, walk in with that cheap airport candy Chloe likes. Instead, I walked into this. My 8-year-old, curled on her side by the cabinets, a small cut above her eyebrow, a thin line of blood already dried down toward her ear. Sweetheart, I got down on the floor next to her, my knees hitting the tile hard. Chloe, baby, look at me. Her eyes opened halfway, slow and heavy, fighting to stay open. She was breathing. Thank God she was breathing, just slow, groggy, like she'd been woken from somewhere deep. Mommy, she whispered. I'm here. Behind me, I heard Derek finally move, but not toward us, toward the sink. I heard the water turn on and off, like he was washing his hands over and over without actually washing anything off them. Before I tell you what I found out over the next 3 days, if you're new here, this is Secret Story Hub, and I promise you, this story earns every minute of your time. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from tonight. My name is Sophie Callahan. I was 32 years old, and up until that Tuesday night in October, I would have told you my marriage was ordinary in the best way. Steady. Boring, even, if you'd asked me on a good day, and I would have said that like it was a compliment. I worked as a claims investigator for an insurance company in Tulsa, which meant I spent my days reading people, catching the half second where someone's story stopped matching their face. 15 years of that teaches you things. It teaches you when somebody's telling you the truth slowly and when they're telling you a lie fast. Derek was telling me something fast. She fell, he finally said, still at the sink, off the step stool, reaching for the cereal. I looked at the step stool. It was folded, pushed against the pantry door, 3 feet from where Chloe was lying. Derek, I kept my voice calm for her sake. The stool's over there. I moved it after. After what? I asked again. He didn't answer that one either. He just stood there at the sink, staring at his own hands like he didn't recognize them, and I felt something cold settle into my chest that had nothing to do with the small cut on my daughter's forehead. I dialed 911 with one hand and held Chloe's fingers with the other. She squeezed back. Weak, but she squeezed back. And I told myself, right then, that was enough for now. I told myself I'd figure out the rest of it later. I had no idea how far later would end up going. The paramedics arrived faster than I expected for a Tuesday night. 2 of them came through the door first, a woman named Alvarez and a younger guy who went straight for Chloe's vitals without a word, wasted. Pulse is steady, Alvarez said. More to her partner than to us. Pupils are reactive. Sweetheart, can you tell me your name? Chloe, my daughter whispered, and something in my chest loosened just a little at the sound of her voice, small as it was. Derek finally moved from the sink. He crouched near us, but not too close, like he was approaching something he wasn't sure was safe to touch. What happened here? Alvarez asked, not looking up from Chloe. She fell, Derek said, off the step stool. Alvarez glanced at the stool, folded neatly against the pantry, same as I had. She didn't say anything about it, not yet. She just kept working. How long was she unconscious? Alvarez asked. I don't know, Derek said. A few minutes, maybe. You don't know? I heard myself ask before I could stop it. You were here. Derek looked at me, and for a second his face did something I couldn't read. Not guilt exactly. Something closer to fear. I was in the garage, he said. I heard a thump that was new. He hadn't said anything about the garage before. Not to me. Not in the 4 minutes I'd been kneeling on this floor waiting for sirens. Alvarez looked up at him then, just briefly, and I saw her clock the shift in his story the same way I had. She didn't push it. She had a patient in front of her, and that patient came first. We're going to take her in, she said. Just to be safe. Head injuries and kids, even minor ones, we don't take chances. Of course, I said. I'll ride with her. Alvarez nodded, then paused, looking at Derek with an expression I couldn't quite place. Sir, has your daughter had any falls recently? Any dizziness, fainting, anything like that? No, Derek said, too fast. I watched him say it. 15 years of reading people across a claims table, and I know what a clean no sounds like versus a rehearsed one. That was rehearsed. Derek, I kept my voice even for Chloe's sake, even though something in me was starting to shake. Has something like this happened before? No, he said again. And this time, he wouldn't look at me. Alvarez's partner lifted Chloe carefully onto the stretcher. Her eyes fluttered, found mine, and held there. Mommy, is Daddy in trouble? The question stopped everything in the room for a second. No, sweetheart, I said, though I wasn't sure that was true anymore. Nobody's in trouble. As they wheeled her toward the door, Alvarez fell into step beside me, lowering her voice so only I could hear it. Mrs. Callahan, I need to ask you something, and I need you to think carefully before you answer. Okay, she glanced back once at Derek, who stood frozen by the sink again, watching us leave. Has your husband ever asked you not to mention something to your daughter's pediatrician? I stopped walking, because the answer was yes, and I hadn't thought about it once in over a year. Not until that exact moment. The hospital hallway smelled like hand sanitizer and cold coffee, and I stood there holding on to Alvarez's question like it was the only solid thing in the room. Mrs. Callahan? Alvarez's voice pulled me back. Sorry, yes. I made myself breathe. There was one time, about a year ago, Chloe got up too fast from the couch and went pale. Said her ears were ringing. She sat back down before anything really happened. Derek was the one who noticed it first. Did you take her in? He said not to worry the pediatrician over nothing. He said kids get dizzy sometimes. I heard how thin that sounded coming out of my own mouth. I didn't push it. Alvarez nodded slowly, the kind of nod that wasn't agreement, just acknowledgement. That's helpful. Thank you. They took Chloe back for a scan, and a nurse told me it would be a while before the doctor could talk to us. My legs felt heavy walking down that hallway. I found Derek in the waiting room, sitting with his elbows on his knees, staring at the floor the same way he'd stared at the sink an hour earlier. You told me it was nothing, I said, sitting down across from him. A year ago, you said kids get dizzy. He didn't answer right away. When he finally looked up, his eyes were red. I didn't want it to be something, he said quietly. If I said it out loud to a doctor, it would be real. And I was scared of what real meant. Derek, that's not your decision to make alone. She's my daughter too. I know that. His voice cracked on the second word. I know that, Sophie. A doctor found us 20 minutes later. A woman with kind eyes and a tablet under her arm. Her badge reading, Dr. Patel. Mr. and Mrs. Callahan. Chloe's scan looks clean. No fracture, no swelling. Given what you described, this looks consistent with a fainting episode. Likely triggered by standing up too fast, combined with mild dehydration. It's called vasovagal syncope. It's common in kids, very treatable, and rarely dangerous once it's properly monitored. Relief hit me so hard, my hands started shaking. But, Dr. Patel continued, her chart shows this may not be the first episode. I'd like to ask about any prior incidents so we can put together a real picture instead of guessing. I looked at Derek. He looked back at me, and for the first time all night, he didn't look away. There's something else, he said to both of us, his voice barely above a whisper, something I never told you. Not because I wanted to hide it from you, Sophie. Because I didn't know how to say it without you thinking less of me as a father. The doctor waited. I waited. 3 months ago, Derek said, she fainted at the park while you were at your sister's baby shower. I caught her before she hit the ground, and I never told you because I was terrified you'd never trust me alone with her again. I stared at him, and for the first time that night, the fear in my chest started making room for something else entirely. You should have told me, I said, and my voice wasn't angry anymore, just tired in a way that went all the way down to my bones. Derek, I would never have thought less of you. I would have been scared with you. I know that now, he said. I think I knew it then too. I just couldn't make myself believe it. Dr. Patel gave us a minute before she came back with a plan. Fluids, electrolytes, a referral to a pediatric cardiologist just to rule out anything serious. So she said again, gently, that this looked textbook ordinary for a kid Chloe's age. The fainting itself wasn't the danger. Not knowing the pattern well enough to keep her safe next time was. That's the part I got wrong, Derek said quietly once the doctor had gone. I thought keeping it quiet was protecting everyone. All it did was leave gaps. Tonight, I heard a thump from the garage, and I didn't know if this was like the park or something worse. I froze because I'd spent 3 months pretending I had it handled, and standing over her, I realized I never did. I reached across the space between our chairs and took his hand. It was the first time since I'd walked through our front door that either of us had touched the other on purpose. We're going to do this together, I said. All of it. Every appointment, every weird moment, every single thing. Even the small stuff that feels embarrassing to say out loud. Together, he repeated, like he was testing whether the words still fit us. Together, they let us see Chloe an hour later. She sat up in a hospital bed, 2 sizes too big for her, working on a cup of apple juice like it was the most important job she'd ever had. Am I in trouble? She asked, the same question from the kitchen floor, still worried we'd say yes. No, baby. I sat on the edge of her bed. You did nothing wrong. Your body just needs a little extra help sometimes, and now we all know how to give it to you. Daddy looked really scared, she said. Derek sat down on her other side. I was, because I love you so much it makes me stupid sometimes. Chloe laughed. A real laugh, the kind that told me more than any scan result could. We drove home just before sunrise. Chloe asleep in the back seat with her shoes still on. Derek reached over and put his hand on mine on the console between us, and I let it stay there the whole way. 6 weeks later, we had a folder in the kitchen drawer with every doctor's note, every follow-up date, Every small detail we use to keep separate out of fear or habit. Chloe hasn't fainted since, and if she ever does, we'll face it the same way we should have from the start. Together, out loud, with nothing hidden in a garage or a sink full of running water. That night taught me that the scariest secrets aren't the ones someone tells you. They're the ones love convinces you to keep to yourself.